Hello everyone, this is Jacob Popio, the producer of The Apex. In this episode, Jan sits down with the Beeman himself, Mr. Trent J Balduff. Trent is an environmentalist, beekeeper, and a mindfulness advocate that has grown a beekeeping hobby into a fully formed nonprofit. If you want to support us, there are 3 ways to do so. One is to donate to our cause at www.patreon.com/theapexpodcast. Second, visit our merch line that is proudly partnered with Envision Clothing Company at envisionclothingcompany.com. The final one is completely free. All we ask is if you learned something from this episode or know someone that needs to hear our message, share it with them. Please subscribe and hope this pushes you toward your apex.
Is that recording?
Huh?
Was that recording?
It's recording now.
Oh, nice. I love it. Jan, what time is it?
It is 1:33 a.m. Yes, it is. Got a fireplace going.
Virtual.
In the living room of the Bliss. And was having a good conversation, so I didn't get the microphones on. So cheers to that, Trent J Balduff.
Cheers to that, my buddy.
Nice to have you.
It's funny, I believe earlier in the evening you said that we should record every single conversation that we ever have. And, a few people that have ever conversed with the two of us separately, perhaps in the same room, would have to agree with that. I know Jarrett would. Jarrett would be all
for
that.
sure. I'm sure, yeah. Jarrett would be so down. He would want to be in on the conversations, is what would happen.
So I remember us speaking earlier in the truck, and that was one of the most mind-blowing conversations I've ever had. It's been revolutionary.
Okay.
And some of the points that we made, fantastic. And it all started out with the basis of consciousness.
Right. Yep.
Where are you at right now in your realm of consciousness? Not right this instant, but in your life in general. Don't you feel as if you're taking some sort of leap forward? Isn't that the way you phrased it?
Yeah. Well, in a way, it's more of like seeing a whole bunch of things shift and alter all at once, and acknowledging the fact that like we are all experiencing something insane post to like a pandemic, right? Like this awakening of sorts.
Mm-hmm.
And like I talked about it like in previous podcasts and other stuff, where it was like, you know, the bubonic plague in the Renaissance is an example, and then the flu of 1918 and the Roaring '20s, and like, you know, COVID-19, and then who's to say what comes next? So with all of the instability, there's like this hope that between people like Jordan Peterson or Ian McGilchrist, or there are hundreds of other like neurosurgeons, neuroscientists, psychologists, psychoanalysts, behaviorists, like all of these are people that have contributed to things. Piaget, you know, Erickson, Nietzsche, Jung, Freud, like all of these people that have contributed to these massive explorations of like what is the human mind.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's coming to everybody's re-exploring that stuff right now, and it's causing a lot of people to think about a lot of different things. And so it's more of like an acknowledgement of what's collectively happening to consciousness in general, more so than like my own coming into a consciousness of sorts. I don't really feel any different. I just feel like I'm noticing stuff.
Feel like you're riding the wave.
Yeah, basically. Dude, like it has been a crazy year. Like absolutely bonkers.
You mean because you must remember, and for those who are listening, it's hilarious. Actually, 365 days ago exactly, Jan and I did a podcast, and it was an epic conversation as well.
Yes, it was. That was a good podcast.
That's hilarious. 7-7, man. Happy 7-7, folks.
Happy 7-7. Like we should just start a tradition here. Nostrovia again. We're drinking a little bit of Glenfiddich for anybody that's listening. We'll just, 7-7. It'll be one of the days that we record a podcast.
I'm up for that. That's amazing.
So,
real quick, when's your birthday?
August 10th, 1995.
Leo.
I am. I get that response from everybody that understands that. They're like, it's either I Actually, you know what? I don't think I've ever gotten the, oh, you're a Leo. It's like, you're a Leo? Like, almost every single time. And I don't know. Like, I started looking into it a little bit, and apparently Leos are just supposed to be, like, massive pricks. And that's why people are like, huh? But then I start to, like, describe to them how I approach problems or, like, the way that I position myself in certain situations. And they're like, oh, like, that makes sense. But I'm like, I didn't realize they had this, like,
sometimes overwhelming personality.
Yeah, overwhelming aggressiveness.
You don't act like a Leo typically, but anyhow, off topic. That does have
Do we have a topic?
I really enjoy the idea of bringing up the fact that your thoughts preceded by actions, and your thoughts sometimes are even preceded by intention.
Okay.
Ultimately, those three things plus emotion equal manifestation.
Okay, so walk me through that one more time, just so I can understand it fully.
Right. At the same time, these three things are happening. Can be happening, but it's essentially either thought, emotion, intention, action, or emotion, thought, intention, action. Ultimately, the fifth step being manifestation.
Right. Okay. So, like, you have to know what you want to do,
or be inspired
in doing it
by it,
and then it manifests itself into reality at the end of that cycle.
If for you to know what to do is to think, feel, intend, act.
Right. Okay.
But to feel, think, intend, act, I feel is some sort of inspiration,
like an intuition.
Yeah. Literally, your soul wanting to creep out of your own body and bring something to manifestation. Mm-hmm. You don't have a choice. You have to bring this to manifest, or you won't be satisfied or fulfilled.
Yeah, right? So it's like you're being pulled in a direction rather than having to push yourself in a direction.
Because I think that our mind between, like, to know the thinking.
Purpose?
Yes.
Yeah.
But sometimes. Because even when you live out your purpose, you do have to think about it, and sometimes thinking does get in the way.
Yeah, okay. That makes sense.
Be inspired, though. Like, let's break that word down. Inspire, to me, in spirit. There's something within you, the spirit, trying to bring itself manifest. And because of your correlation to how you and I are having a lot of breakthroughs right now, professionally, personally, socially, in every way of our life, really. That being a part of the undulation upswing of the consciousness of the human race, and we're riding that wave in a way.
Right.
At the same time, the fact that, see, this scotch is really getting to me. I was like apexing, and then poof, it disappeared.
Yeah. It's
wow.
Right, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning.
It is, and I did work 14 hours earlier today. That's a son of a gun.
That's crazy.
It is wild to think about.
That's crazy.
But the fact that inspiration, that's something wanting to come out from you. The idea of that most people are starting to live more inspired also.
Well, so this is where, like, I started really grappling with this idea of, like, identity, right? Like, and we've had multiple conversations about how I'm attempting to try to, like, figure out how to go about proving that businesses have their own type of consciousness, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so, like, my reason for wanting to do that is because they start as the manifestation of an entrepreneur, and then they take on a life of their own, very similarly to the way a song takes on a life of its own after a musician puts it out, right? Like, it's perception by the mass that is meant to interpret it changes it fundamentally somehow. And so in that entire exploration, I came up with these, like, 4 phases, right? There's, like, intuition, imagination, interpretation, and then all of that combined equals your identity. So you have to intuitively, like what you're saying, inspire, right? Mm-hmm. So inspire, in spirit, intuition is like within me, I'm coming up, I'm feeling this pull toward a specific thing.
Right.
So I think a lot of people discount that. A lot of people discount intuitive response. Like we're at a place where people are so rationally oriented. And I think that a lot of that is because of the instantaneous availability of information because of the internet. Mm-hmm. That like nobody's ever been bored. they've never been forced to like creatively identify solutions. They've just been able to instantaneously find a solution.
Right.
So it's been slowly taking away our ability to do that, or our need to, not necessarily our ability. I'll take that back. I'll rephrase that. I'm going to readjust my stance on that right here, because like I don't think it's taking away our ability to do it. It's making it more difficult for us to access that ability. That ability is still there, because
the ability
to creatively identify solutions without instantaneously identifying a result in Google. You know what I mean? Like there's a process. If you know how to trigger your brain in the right ways to come up with a solution, you can kind of like, I think a lot of people just call it common sense, right? Like, but a lot of people have been saying for a while that common sense ain't so common.
True that.
Right. So it's like, if that piece is, you know, part of the intuitive gut, then it's tough. It's tough to exercise your intuition if you're just always available to get the immediate answer. So it prevents you from making it to the second stage, which is imagination, which is like creatively coming up with all of the potential solutions and ways that you could solve your intuitive issue. Because I think that intuition is something that like, it's not so much like, for me at least, I've never intuitively known that I needed to do something.
Yeah.
I've intuitively known that if I didn't do something, there would be consequences. So I've never really known like with 100% certainty with whether or not what I imagine and what I interpret as my identity is going to be correct at the time with the data that I have about myself. But if I don't trust that intuition, there's severe consequences because I'm not progressing. So it's like I have to intuit. I have to imagine potential solutions to that intuitive problem, which is, you know, if I don't solve it, it has negative consequence. And then I interpret all of the potential imagined solutions. That's what anchors me in my identity. And so I like came up with that cycle, and I just do that over and over and over and over.
The interpretations would have to lead to some sort of choosing in social interaction, in professional profession of choice, really, and your overall lifestyle. I mean, that identity, after being inspired, intuited, inspired, not
either or.
I wasn't trying to quote you because I know you didn't say inspired. I did, and I was projecting because the ideas were very similar. As you went through your 4 stages, I was like immediately correlating them to what I had said. It's funny that we're on such a similar wavelength, but I'm not surprised by that at all.
Not at all. No, I thought about that for a long time, and then I really started getting into this guy named Ian McGilchrist. And if you haven't gotten a chance to listen to him, you should totally listen to his lectures. He started talking about like right brain, left brain perceptions and like how they each perceive reality in kind of somewhat separate ways, and the reasons why they do that, and why there's a structure inside of the brain called the corpus callosum, and and it's a barrier between your right and left hemispheres, basically, right? It like prevents all of your brain from being connected. So, shoot.
For those who cannot see us, I just raised my hand because I know that was the most polite way to interject, I suppose you could say. But my quick question is, have you ever heard that psychedelics are one of the most well-known substances or experiences for people to be able to break down through that exact complex within the brain?
Like barriers? Like being able to meld the two? Yeah. Like there's a bunch of research. Tim Ferriss constantly is interviewing people about, it seems like the Tim Ferriss podcast is like the psychedelic research podcast of the 21st century at this point.
Really? Because I had never listened to his podcast before. Now I'm
you should
deeply
listen
interested.
To it. It's super interesting. I've loved a lot of the research with veterans and like psilocybin therapies with vets, or MDMA has been an interesting one to keep an eye on as well. There's actually, I think, a company that's taking MDMA back to phase 3 trials coming up here soon for PTSD. But it's basically doing what you're saying. It's allowing people to bridge the gap and like essentially reactivate synapses and neural networks and that had not previously been active, or they've been like dampened because of trauma. They're able to, what their consciousness is able to perceive is like battling something from their past, or coming to grips with it, or being able to process it with a different lens, like process death with a different lens, or come to grips with like meaning, and like there's like really deep integral realizations that these people have. And during like therapeutic, I think hypnosis sessions.
Really?
Yeah. I'd have to look at and see what paper it is.
Hypnosis during
like MDMA therapies. Yeah.
Wow, that's incredible.
And it's like guided by a psychologist. And obviously, I mean, it's very strictly dosed and everything else for therapeutic levels, but it does phenomenal things when it comes to like repairing people's consciousness. And that's something else I think that we're going to be doing in the next 20, 30 years, is like there's going to be a transition in mental health from like just looking at ailments to like fundamentally understanding this is a alteration of this person's consciousness. We try to bring them back to a more stable level of consciousness rather than just like masking a bunch of symptoms with drugs.
Yeah.
I think that that's like something that was crafted by the pharmaceutical industry partially, and I may be completely off the wall by saying that. I'm not trying to be like a conspiracy theorist or anything, but you look at some of the laws that were passed around the times that you listen to any Joe Rogan podcast about psychedelics in the 60s. Like there's so many things that they got passed where it's like, I don't know, like maybe Prozac lobbied for that. Maybe, maybe we had some SSRIs that people wanted to make a bunch of profit on. And
I would have to say that like, lobbying.
These mushrooms, may have been curing some veterans, but we want to sell them something that just masks the symptoms.
That's horrible.
It's horrible to think about, but it's
it
like,
really is.
If we don't believe that there are humans that are capable of that, I think we're ignorant.
That's so true, because there is that shadow self. Like we all have our shadow self, and think that there's not just a general shadow of humanity that reveals itself through other individuals' egos and personal experiences. We, like you said, that'd be ignorant.
Hey guys, so what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna turn on the air conditioning because it is hot as hell in this apartment.
Word.
So if you hear
perfect.
Are you really?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Oh my god, I feel so hot.
It's them daggum pajama pants that you got on. Those do look nice and toasty.
Yeah, they are definitely toasty. You know what? That brings up a good point. We're gonna take a quick intermission, and I'm gonna go change into shorts and turn on the AC. We'll be back. And we're back, and I'm wearing shorts because it was hot in here. And I want to talk about cryogenics for a little bit.
Heard.
Because
I've never experienced that, so please indulge me.
It was insane. It was cool. So like, yeah, inadvertently intended. Yes. So me and my brother and my dude Eric, shout out to Eric if you listen to this, bro. It was his idea to go to this cryo place, and so we go there, and like you get into this little room. And they have like a pair of slippers and socks and a robe and shorts that you put on and the whole 9 yards, right? Because you can't have any metal in there. Like you just have to be wearing these like silky shorts and socks and mittens.
Silky,
and then they give you like a mask.
Mittens, that's hilarious.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't call them gloves. I call them mittens.
Mittens.
Yeah,
they're a very common name for a household cat, I suppose you could say.
I don't know why I call them mittens, but I've done that like 4 or 5 times.
Like even the ones that have the individual fingers wrapped?
Yeah.
Because those be gloves.
Yeah, I don't know. If they're like a winter...
Anything that keeps your hands warm in cold weather.
If it's a winter glove, it's a mitten to me.
Whether it's a glove or a mitten, it's a mitten.
Well, like work gloves, I think gloves. But like everything else, I think mitten.
That's funny. Yeah. I like it.
Yeah. Okay, where was I? We had to wear mittens and face masks, right? And so then she asks you, like, do you want, beginner, intermediate, whatever? And the difference between beginner and intermediate is like a negative 140 degrees to negative 150 degrees Fahrenheit.
Really?
Yeah. And then the jump from like medium or intermediate to like pro is like 150 to 170. And so like I'm going to have to go do the pro one the next time I go through. And then they have like a super cold one that's like for more veteran people because you have to like train yourself to be used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But
how long are you in there?
3 minutes.
Word.
Yeah. And so like I didn't get a chance to research it a ton yet, but I'm super fascinated with like what the results are actually going to be out of that.
Mm-hmm.
Because You know what? I might actually just Google it right now. Like, because I felt so good afterwards, dude. I swear, like, I had the best nap I'd had in forever.
You napped there?
Like, no, I napped after I got home.
I was gonna say.
No, I didn't nap there.
It's gonna be mind blown.
Benefits of
Did I just say bind Malone?
I have no idea what you said.
Glenfiddich, man. What are you doing to me?
Dude, scotch is good.
It is. Scotch. It's delicious. Too delicious.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's dangerous. That's funny.
Okay, so here's like healthline.com. Let's see here. Glastonbury, Cairo. Should you try whole body cryotherapy? I'm trying to find one that's like a legitimate.
How did it make you feel? Like, why was that the best nap of your life?
Oh, it was phenomenal. So it was like I was completely relaxed. Whole body. There we go. So like, if I had to describe it, like my muscles were all relaxed. I was less anxious. Like I was very grounded. You know, like I knew what I needed to do. I just got a bunch of tasks done. I went through the process. I felt like just comfortable. And then I was able to just lay down on the couch and like gently drift off to take a nap.
Mm-hmm.
So it hasn't happened in a while. But like one of the things that I'm looking at on here, so this is from healthline.com. I'm just going to read it off of here. It looks like it was medically reviewed by a woman named Deborah Wilson. She's got her PhD, her doctorate in nursing. So I guess, you know, I consider that relatively reputable.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to do research into her, so don't take this as word as law, but this is just like a basic list of like some of the benefits of whole body cryotherapy. So it says like reducing migraine symptoms, numbing nerve irritation, treating mood disorders because it has a positive physiological effect on hormonal responses, especially around adrenaline, noradrenaline, and endorphins. Reduces arthritic pain, may help treat low-risk tumors. I think that's for targeted, localized cryotherapy, though. Yeah, that's for a cancer treatment. That's not for whole body.
Word.
May help prevent dementia or Alzheimer's. Can help treat acne and other skin conditions. And then the risks and the side effects are like mostly heart related because like you get that cold that fast. It's a really like pretty heavy shock on your cardiovascular system.
Yeah.
So that's one thing to watch out for. But other than that, I mean,
see if I could. It's funny to think of the exact opposite of cryo. The sauna.
Yeah,
I love saunas too. I want to put one in my house so badly.
Oh, they have one there at this iCryo place. It's an infrared sauna.
The infrareds are like so much better for your skin and overall a healthier environment to be sitting in. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like the ones that are just.
I've never sat in an infrared one. I think mine have always been steam.
Mine too, and I've only ever heard good things about infrared. You know, like
yeah, this is the first place
significantly better things about those saunas in comparison to the steam ones. But let's just say,
I think it's just like putting your body through like extremes of temperature,
which is cool.
You know, ice baths does one thing. The body, you can manipulate the body with pretty much just like temperature and light. That's all you really need.
We're just complicated houseplants with emotion. I love that meme.
So I totally forgot, dude. Meme culture is something completely that is like the amount of like subcultures within meme culture that exist that my brother just like knows about that I have no idea existed. Because like I left YouTube after the like Fred era.
Yeah. Yep.
And like migrated over to like AIM and like wasn't on YouTube a ton watching videos. I was like messaging people on AIM and fighting over my top 8 spots on MySpace.
Yeah.
Whereas my little brother was just like growing up with YouTube and like didn't really care about the friends, but was just watching a ton of YouTube. So he knows about all these other channels. Like, I didn't know Mr. Beast was a thing.
Mr. Who what?
Yeah, exactly.
Mr. Beans.
Mr. Beast.
Oh.
It's got like 64. It's got like 64 million people on YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, and he started off making Minecraft videos, and now this dude literally just gives away Lamborghinis.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So he just makes exorbitant amounts of money.
I was just gonna ask how long he's been YouTubing. Do you know? If he started doing
I think a
Minecraft
decade.
videos. Wow. Yeah, I love how philanthropic he is. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy. But like, I mean, memes are like, I saw this meme the other day. That was like, the government isn't going to be able to ever identify complete rebel groups because they communicate via memes in ways that the government doesn't understand.
Right.
Like, it's like a really, really complicated code
It is.
that people communicate in. And then like the other thing is like, it's completely democratized freedom of information. So like, people are just constantly trading information back and forth on like Reddit and 4chan.
But just by like retweeting.
Yeah, and
or
retweeting, and like Twitter is like a very superficial
or
form of it.
subredditing, isn't that the term?
Dude, like, I don't know how to navigate a lot of it. I've spent a little bit of time on Reddit, but it's a very interesting place, to say the least.
It is.
Very interesting place.
Didn't know how to make heads or tails of it because I initially thought it was kind of like it's supposed to be like an iFunny. I thought it was a replica of iFunny, just a little bit more sophisticated. But no, it was like a Twitter, Facebook iFunny.
Oh yeah, no, people don't understand how in depth some of those threads go.
Right. I mean, they just almost collapsed the economy. Or not collapsed it, but
not collapsed it, but at least put a big ass red flag on Wall Street's desk. Yeah, they do some crazy things, but collective like human intelligence.
All right, so like good question here. Why did Hillary Clinton want to ban Pepe the Frog? You know what I'm saying? Do you remember that? Hillary Clinton wanted to cancel Pepe the Frog.
I'm gonna Google this.
And I genuinely think, like the meme culture, that type of folk are typically the people that are spreading like funny ways to say conspiracy theories. You know what I'm saying? And overall, Pepe the Frog was a pretty spicy meme around 2016, 2015 era.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it looks like Hillary Clinton's website now has an explainer about a frog that recently became a Nazi.
And I'm convinced that she wanted to cancel Pepe because of the fact that meme culture was calling her out for being a murderer.
With barely an internet whimper, Pepe the Frog, an anthropomorphic cartoon character turned symbol of hate, was put down by his creator, Matt Fury, over the weekend in a single-page comic strip. The final images of Pepe dead in a casket with 3 former roommates paying tribute by pouring some liquor on Pepe's face and drinking the rest. The demise of Pepe, who had become a symbol of the alt-right neo-Nazis and white nationalists, was as sad as it was unlikely. Pepe from the start was supposed to be a good guy, but in the story of his rise and fall, some universal truths about the nature of the modern internet can be found. Wow, this is
Pepe. It was a real thing, man. Yeah.
I'm
telling you, I think she wanted to try and cancel subculture memeism, if you will, because of the fact that they were talking about her being a murderer. That's crazy.
Eventually, a popular meme of the smug frog with Donald Trump's hair started circulating online.
I forgot about that.
And then eventually got retweeted by the Donald Trump campaign. Said Matthew Shimkowitz. I think it's how you say his name. Matthew, if you listen to this, I apologize. An editor at Know Your Meme. When that happened, the meaning of Pepe as a kind of white nationalist or alt-right symbol kind of exploded. It was considered by many to be a tactic of the dog whistling from the Trump campaign to that sect of white nationalists online, and it became a new symbol for white nationalists, maybe not online. It essentially amplified that specific meaning of Pepe. But what happened next was telling. Donald Trump's opponent, Hillary Clinton, publicly denounced Pepe, and that only strengthened Pepe's connection to the white nationalists. Like, that blew up in her face, basically, proving that a lot of times online, denouncing something can function as an amplifier. I didn't notice anything until there was a Hillary Clinton explainer, Fury said. Skimkowitz added, because such high-profile people, perhaps the 2 most famous people on the planet, were saying in so much that Pepe is a symbol of the alt-right, that became the kind of meaning of the meme entirely. That's insane.
So you didn't... Do you know, after reading all of that on your phone, I'm hoping that you got to see what Pepe looks like. That
Yeah.
hilarious frog.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
So
Yeah, I
side note
recognize him.
From side note from meme culture here, the idea of cultural barriers, period, and how many of those are being crossed in 2020. Going back to one of the initial conversations that we were having about the undulation and upswing of human consciousness itself.
Right.
So many cultural barriers are being contested, brought down, crossed in a intellectual and fun, interactive way. I think that so many more things are being respected and taken into consideration nowadays, and I love to see that personally. People are just becoming more tolerant, is what I see. But I'm also a glass half full type of dude, and I feel.
I think it just depends on what area you come from. Like there's a lot of places that are slipping backwards. There's a lot of places. I mean, everywhere that you go, the way that somebody interprets the way that things are moving forward is going to be radically different. Like our interpretation of whether things are moving forward or backwards is going to be wildly different than somebody that is, attempting to cross the border currently, or is homeless right now, or is on the opposite side of the spectrum is a trust fund child, is a hedge fund manager, is an extremely wealthy person. Their version of whether things are going forward or backwards is completely separate. So it's kind of depends on your stance. I tend to be a glass half full kind of person too, and I think there's a lot of people having a lot of positive conversations, and more than anything, the last year has shown us that we have a lot to understand.
A lot to understand, not only about ourselves, but other people. Learn.
Yeah, like that we don't. I think for a long time we believed that we had the entire deck of cards, and we were just analyzing that deck more deeply.
Mm-hmm.
And we just recently that we have like only 30 out of the 52. And we need to find all the rest of the cards rather than just focusing on analyzing the cards that we have.
Mm-hmm.
But for a while, we thought that we had found all the cards, at least collectively as a society. Like the intellectuals, like the scientists and everybody, they constantly know that we don't know anything, basically. That's like one of the beautiful things I know about medicine, nursing,
life period,
physicians, life in general.
We really don't know
anything. You're just trying to piece it together as you move along.
I remember the first time I had a college professor propose that idea to me. He's like, you can't prove anything. Everybody just agrees that it's reality because they're experiencing something similar. But ultimately, like, who's to say we're not in a dream?
Yeah.
Right now.
Yeah, and I think there's interesting ways of there's a lot of research into how do you differentiate between that.
Mm-hmm.
How do you anchor yourself in a reality that actually is the correct one?
And that can be correlated right back to your 4 steps leading to your identity.
Yeah, you're just repeating that process.
That's how you anchor things.
And a lot of that entire idea really came to me when I realized that the majority of the conversations that I was having with my friends were about like life-altering career or identity shaping decisions, because people attach a lot of their identity to their work, and it's as they should, like if you get really good at something that becomes a part of you.
Yeah.
Like you will never not be a carpenter if you learn to be a carpenter. I don't care how long you don't like pick up a 2x4.
Mm-hmm.
You will be able to you go in and you will immediately have 10 times more baseline knowledge than somebody that has never been a carpenter.
Right.
So that absorbs it as part of your consciousness. You are now a carpenter. You embody that.
Yeah, you're a Slovak nurse, dude.
I can't ever get away from that. Both sides of my lineage go directly back to Halushki and Kobasi. Like, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. S-O-C-K-S.
I love it. Hey,
yeah,
nunca diga nunca. Never say never.
Never say never.
It was a band back in the day, but it's somewhat of a trite saying. But I suppose if we dissect that a little bit, never say never. Why would you never say never, Jan? Never's a long time, but outside of that, really, why would you never say never? Jan Almacy.
Never say never.
Yeah. Have you
it could be I would never say never. Not because of anything specific to my timeline,
mm-hmm.
but because the admittance of that means that hope doesn't exist.
Right on. That's pretty right in line with what I
like. If you say never say
agree with
never,
that.
that means that there's no hope for a better future.
Beyond that, everything is possible.
Well, actually,
Anything is
if
possible.
you don't, I guess if you don't subscribe to what never say never stands for,
The hope for that particular situation, at least.
yeah, it just
maybe
dissipates.
And hope, that's a powerful, all-encompassing word, because hope doesn't even, like, to me, when you say that word, I don't think of it applying to any particular situation. I think of it in applying to every single situation.
Right.
It's very closely correlated with faith in my mind.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, hope, faith, love. Right? Like, greatest of these is love.
You know, those wooden signs that are above, like, everybody's kitchen table?
Yeah.
No, but for real.
The Kirkland sales. Yeah, you can get them for cheap. TJ Maxx.
Nice.
Marshalls.
I wonder if Marshall was the first or last name. And who's TJ? Like, I wonder, I'm genuinely curious. What is their name?
Oh, my God. That was like Marshalls and TJ Maxx are some of the best stores that I've ever been introduced to by like an ex.
By an ex?
Yeah, phenomenal. Marshalls for sure. I did not know it was a thing as a 19 or as an 18-year-old
I think
male.
I've seen you in like 3 different very
Hawaiian Marshall shirts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very
no,
Hawaiian.
now. Yeah, I just was not at 19.
That's funny.
I need to be introduced.
What were you doing at 19?
I was just gotten promoted to senior airman in the Air Force. No. I was still in airman first class. I was about to be promoted that year. I had just finished my freshman year of nursing school. I was working at a jail. I just moved into my new apartment, and I ended up getting a neighbor named Michael Pettit. Mike, if you listen to this, I hate you, but I love you. All at the same time. It's a love-hate relationship. He moved down to Knoxville, Tennessee, but I love having somebody to go visit.
True.
So he lived across the hallway from me. We ended up working together at the jail. Well, it was a juvenile detention center.
Word.
And we worked out. And I worked midnights while I was in the military and going to nursing school.
So these were like easily 8 to 14-hour days every day.
12, yeah. Probably 10 to 14 or 10 to 16 pretty much every day.
Word.
Like, I almost got kicked out it would have been my junior year, so the following year. So, like, between 19 and 20, because my birthday's in August, so, like, the school years always fell in, like, weird areas. Like, I was always young. So that school year, I actually, like, fell asleep in the parking lot of a hospital and didn't make it into my clinical because I was working so late. So, like, what would happen is I used to go into work at 11, right? And I would work 11 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
And I would study all night while I was working at the jail
Mm-hmm.
because all I had to do was supervise people in their cells. Right? So, like, just make sure that nobody kills each other when they go to the bathroom.
Right.
So I would just stay up and study all night. And during clinical, they would let me off early, and somebody would come in for me at like 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
They would come in an hour early so I could go to the hospital and go to clinical. So I'd get done with working from 11 to 6, and they'll go to clinical from 7 to 2.
Mm.
And then I'd go home and sleep for like 4 hours, wake up, study for a little bit, eat, try to hit the gym, sleep, go to work, and then repeat. And that was like my entire sophomore/junior year of college. Just working a job. And then, like, on certain weekends, I wouldn't even get the weekends off. I'd like have to go to base and be on base for 12 to 14 or for 10 hours ish, 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
Be on base, and then I would go back to my hotel room out in Mansfield, and I would study out in Mansfield for nursing school. And then
I didn't realize that you were ever in nursing school in Mansfield.
Well, I was in nursing school at Walsh, but when I was at base for the 179th Airlift Wing at Mansfield, I would stay in the hotels.
Okay. If it was for Air Force, not school.
Air Force,
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that was a
Mansfield's
wild time.
a dope city. I love it.
I love Relax Coffee Shop out there. It's phenomenal.
See, you know the
Athens is a really good restaurant out there.
It is. You know the balcony that sits above the entrance for Relax, it's just coffee?
Yeah.
So that is office space. Behind that, And what's really interesting is the fact that that balcony, you can see that in a very particular scene of the movie, The Shawshank Redemption.
Oh, that's cool.
So you know Brooks,
Yeah.
the old man that kills himself.
Yeah.
Sorry for anybody that's
Spoiler.
yeah. Sorry. Like,
if you haven't seen Shawshank Redemption at this point, get off my podcast
and go watch The Shawshank.
Watch that movie.
There's a scene where he is fresh out of prison and walking down the street, and he said, "My God, everything's moving so fast." I remember when I was a boy, I saw a car one time, and now everybody's in one, or something along those lines. And he almost gets hit trying to cross the street. If you look in the back of that scene right there, where he almost gets hit, you can see that same exact balcony.
That's cool.
Above the entrance of Relax It's Just Coffee. And I worked for the company that rented the office space out above Relax It's Just Coffee. So I would eat my lunch on that balcony.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah, man.
And the fact that you were right above Relax It's Just Coffee.
Oh, it was great.
I love how like you said the whole name every single time you described it. Like every Mansfieldian that I know just calls it Relax. And you were like, but then the balcony above Relax It's Just Coffee. The company that I worked for rented the space attached to that balcony at Relax It's Just Coffee.
That's like, no, 9 times out of 10. I would suppose I went for the full name because most listeners likely total strangers to Mansfield. But if you do go, look for the cement silos. They repainted them recently. At least
did they really?
Yeah.
Nice.
That life experience that I had in Mansfield has literally changed the trajectory of my entire life.
Well,
that
you went to
one year
Ashland,
that
right?
I lived, I did, yeah. So at 19 for me, right? No, that was 20. When I was 20 years old, though, listen to this shit. I got fired from working as a dockhand at 2 different yacht clubs within 3 months from each other.
Oh my God.
For drinking on the job.
Oh
so I
my
was
God.
A little less well-rounded as you were in terms of overall life direction at 19 and 20.
That's too funny.
Yeah, I wanted to do was pole vault. All I wanted to do was pole vault, bro. That was it.
Hey, I mean, as long as you were focused, I guess.
But I wasn't. I was smoking dope and being
all over
kind
the
of a
place.
dick. But that, honestly, having that aspiration to just want to pole vault, that was the one time I had ever had a goal that was bigger than me, because my genuine aspiration was to make it to the Olympics. Like, genuine aspiration was to make it to the Olympics. But I knew that, so the whole time I was battling my ego, both on abusing substances as well as, remember how early in the truck I was like, I know that a lot of good things are coming, but I'm judging myself because I'm not allowing them to be here right now, essentially.
Right.
That was the head case that I was regarding pole vault the whole time through. And I feel as if that mental barrier could have been something that I've broken through. I would have had a more successful. I don't know if I'd be at the Olympics, but you know what I'm saying. That's all I wanted to do. I definitely wasn't grinding like a grind like you had just described of nursing school, being in the Air Force, and working at the jail and things of that nature. Like I said, totally different life paths. But
I never attached to anything at that level with athletics. I was just like, I remember thinking when I was in wrestling, at a young age, I was like, I need to set my body up for success in the long term, but I'll never be able to be an athlete my entire life.
Word.
So I'm going to focus on developing a bunch of other shit. And I had that, I remember thinking that at 15. And
damn, I didn't have that realization until I was 23.
Yeah, I remember thinking
post 25 stitches in my body from pole vaulting and my couple broken bones.
Yeah, I remember doing that and being I don't see the value in it other than some type of status symbol or a sense of accomplishment for yourself. But then I think that everybody has those different types of drives. So my drive was always an intellectual battle with myself.
Do you think that has anything to do with you being homeschooled?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Yeah, 100%.
Because you were homeschooled for the first 14 years of your life, right?
Yeah, for until I was a freshman in high school.
Wow.
So what I really attribute to homeschooling is I was able to suck at math and do 5th grade math, but do 8th grade science in 5th grade.
Word.
Because I love science.
Yeah.
And I murdered the tests to get through science. I just was shit at math. So like I was able to do like, I was writing 3 or 5 page papers in 5th grade, 6th grade, because my dad would just like teach me how to write, and I was fascinated with language and pretty much fascinated with everything else except for math. I'm just shit at math.
Still to this day.
Still to this day, dude.
Wow.
Like unless it's geometry, I love geometric proofs. I love logic. I love like identifying different angles inside of shapes and like building geometric structures. Algebra, like calculus, shoot me.
Bro,
like I would rather cut off a toe one at a time with a rusty spoon.
I never will. I like and that, like really all we need, really all that like your average human being needs to know: addition, subtraction, division, multiplication. Oh yeah, and you're gonna be able to succeed very well in terms of just like keeping track of things. All of the universe is a number algorithm. I feel.
Explain that.
The Matrix. At the same time, God. Remember how many times I've brought up to you the idea of angel numbers.
Yeah.
And like those numbers speak to me because the 1 through 10 or 1 through 9 essentially each hold their different frequency. Like the number 9 for whatever reason is correlated to a higher frequency than the number 1.
Okay.
And after that being implanted in my subconscious mind of that idea, that scale, numbers have spoken to me since.
I mean, it's interesting. Like, I mean,
through feelings.
Math wouldn't exist if numbers weren't a fundamental law,
right?
Like it's not just like a part of it is just like it's a human interpretation. Like it's
a beautiful symbol.
It's like a socially acceptable painting that we put on paper, and it like gives value, right? But it's bigger than that. I mean, we're making smart equations with numbers at this point. So like numbers are very old. They're very ancient. Like it's just
the reason that we're in this building right now is numbers.
Yeah, it's architecture. It's math. Math is like when people. So like just because I'm shit at math doesn't mean I don't have like a very intimate, deep appreciation for what math is or what it does. Like especially in the realms of like astrophysics, physics, medicine, petroleum.
Right, I was gonna say even in chemistry.
Like, and I'm not like one side or the other as far as petroleum as an industry and like the ethics behind it, but the fact that 90% of our products that we use are petroleum based.
Yep.
Like, it's bonkers.
That is bonkers. And a side note, do you feel because for me, I have a very equal interest and relative understanding between the two distinct different types of sciences, because you said you love science, and to me there's biology, but then there's also like physics and engineering. But engineering's it does have a science behind it, but
it does
the science of physics and chemistry between the science of biology, but then realizing how closely correlated they are. But ultimately, are you more interested by like learning how our material beings that we are move through life, or how it sustains itself, movement or sustain? Like which one of the biology or physics and chemistry, basically, is what I'm asking. Which one is more interesting to you? It was a really long way to get to that question. Ultimately.
So I would probably say, because like the one thing that you didn't mention in it, it's like my ultimate fascination is psychology, right? So like
heard that.
So psychology being independent of those two choices, I'd probably have to go to biology.
Word.
Right? Because like chemistry to me is a bunch of if-then statements that logically predict how substances interact with each other.
Yeah.
Right? It's very basic. Like organic chemistry is not hard. It's just patterns. Same thing with biochemistry. Right? It's just beautiful fractal. I mean, maybe not fractal, but like octagonal, hexagonal.
I would say that's a good.
There's a bunch of different types of structures, and like when you move one or two things, and it completely changes the function of the substance. It's beautiful. Carbon is an amazing thing.
It is,
right? But for me, the biology and how it directly affects life is insane. Like our hormones are crazy. Like biological impulse is like insanely
and
potent.
The fact that we can have spikes of those through just like smelling somebody else's hormones, their pheromones.
Pheromone, yeah, or like a
Insane.
specific smell. Like I remember, like my dad always wore Brut cologne, right? And like every time I smell that, I think of my dad instantaneously. Like there's no control over that. It's just it brings back a memory. So there's like so much attached to that biological interpretation of scent particles in the air that it triggers a conscious thought. Like that's the relationship between biology and psychology intimately fascinates me.
The intimate connection and the intimate correlation between the two is
like what you eat, how what you eat affects your mood, bro. Or like what your temperature of your body's at while you're sleeping, how that affects your mood. What sound frequencies you're listening to and how that affects your mood.
And how you view yourself and how that's correlated to what kind of diet you ultimately eat, which is ultimately circling right back to impacting your mood, which is impacting how you view yourself.
Yeah, if you view yourself as unworthy of health, you won't eat a healthy diet.
Right. And then it's going to make you have a shitty mood, and you're not going to want to view yourself as somebody that...
Yeah, it's a horrible cyclic loop. Yeah, it's bad, and I've been.
I'm unhappy because I eat, and I eat because I'm unhappy.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. Like it could be like I'm unhappy because I smoke, and I smoke because I'm unhappy. I'm unhappy because I drink, and I drink because I'm unhappy. Like, I'm sunburnt all the time because I go out into the sun, and when I go out into the sun, it makes me happy. But then when I'm sunburnt, I'm not happy. Like it's just a message that like literally everything that you do in excess is bad.
Ooh,
it's a horrible plan. Like
that's a horrible plan.
Yeah, like, and there's some things that like you can't do cocaine in moderation. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things that are just outside of those limits of bounds where it's like, everything in moderation. That's a bullshit claim. That's stupid. It's dumb. Like everything in moderation is such a dumb claim. Like there are certain things that just are outliers outside of what that is. So it's not everything in moderation. It's like things.
Oh, you're saying everything is too much of a blanket statement. Because I mean, there are certain things like even just like cigarettes or coffee that people are literally addicted to and do out of moderation, but their moderation is so different in comparison to like what is moderation with those things that are legalized and regulated and socially acceptable at any given time.
Well, I just mean that like, but if you drink 16 cups of coffee and no water, it's going to be bad for your kidneys. If you smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day for 3 months, you immediately increase your risk of lung cancer.
Gotcha.
But if you smoke,
I got off track.
If you smoke 1 cigarette a day, for, I don't know what the stats would be, but like 1 cigarette a day is vastly different than a pack.
Right.
And I'm not saying that it's okay. It's just less risk. Like you have to take calculated risk. And like if you're just in the sun for like 14 hours with no sunscreen, that's stupid. If you go into the sun for 2 hours, you get a shit ton of vitamin D, and you get elevated mood, and you're excited. If you have 1 glass of wine, it's good for your cardiovascular health. If you drink a bottle a night, you're an alcoholic.
That's a gorgeous way to put it at the end there. No, I am hitting it on the head. You are hitting it on the head.
But my premise is that, like, back to your original point, everything in moderation is a bullshit statement because you can't do crack in moderation, right? Like, there are outliers. There are things like excessive premarital sex, like excessive hooking up is horrible for your psychology, right? It like decreases self-value. It's just not good, but like, that's not saying that sex is bad.
Right.
It's just like being frivolous and not appreciating the sacredness of what that act means is something different.
How painful is it sometimes for people to realize that they're using or doing something out of moderation? You know what I'm saying? There's a different level of
accountability that comes with that,
and self-awareness and discipline and things of that nature, and the amount of self-awareness and discipline that is necessary for any amount of accountability with changing that. The betterment of themselves.
Changing it's the hardest part,
right?
For sure. And recognizing it's easy, and then you just end up in this painful, like, well, how do I change it? And you're not sure how, and like you just kind of like get stuck in this like loop after loop after loop after loop. But that's only if you're analyzing what you currently have over and over and over again.
That's true, and I would even go to say that the getting stuck in that loop of battling that over and over and over again is consistently going between relying fully on our faith, relying fully on that higher power within us, and then coming back to our human 3D life that we're living, and recognizing that experience, and like, oh, I have a higher power, or if you have that level of self-awareness. But other than that, I don't see a situation which somebody would look at it like that. Other people are just going to look at it as, oh, things are going great, and then now things are going kind of shitty for me. Right. Things are going great. Things are kind of going kind of shitty for me, which ultimately it would work either way.
Well, and what I try to help people like look out for is like when things are going positive, just be grateful and execute relentlessly, right? But then when things start to go downhill, which they inevitably do every single time, like you will hit peaks and you will hit valleys. You will hit growth curves. You'll achieve a new level. You'll plateau. You'll have to figure out how to break through that plateau. Like every single time you experience a level up in consciousness, you transform a thinking process, right? Like I'm working on this transformative thought workshop right now. Every time you're able to transform to a new level of thinking, then you have a new set of problems to solve. And it's up to you to decide how long of a vacation you take between solving the next problem set. And I think that you should take some time, because like intuitively, I think you start to already understand where you need to go next.
Yeah.
But it takes our brains, sometimes people, a lifetime, to rationalize enough logical reasons to proceed with said intuition that it makes sense. Some people never get there. But it's like, if you're willing to adjust and look at things from outside of the box of where you're currently trying to analyze stuff, then you can proceed through a whole bunch of different barriers.
I'm having a personal revelation right now.
No.
It's amazing.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. I'm getting kind of tired.
Oh, bro, I'm exhausted. I'm dead tired. I've been dead tired since I got here.
Yeah, yo, everybody that's listening, I appreciate you guys spending some time with us. I think me and Trent are going to go to bed. It is now like 2:30 in the morning.
It's 2:30?
Yeah.
It's time for the dentist.
Jesus.
Oh,
Trent J Balduff. Cheers, my friend. Appreciate you
cheers, brother.
Getting behind the microphone. And I'm glad that like I don't have to wake up in the morning to do this. I can just go to bed.
I am too. You know what?
Yeah.
But breakfast in the morning sounds great.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Sounds like you have good knowledge about where some good food might be found around these blocks.
Oh yeah, $4.99 breakfasts a piece, baby.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. I love Pete's.
So I let this young man who doesn't have a permit yet drive my car earlier. He took his hat off so he could see better. He left his hat in the backseat of my car and called me. He told me, turn around. I said, no. He said, I'll give you $5. I turned around, gave him his hat. He gave me $5. I gave that kid his hat. I get a breakfast tomorrow. That's how I see it.
Look at that, man.
Thanks for sticking with me on that little rabbit hole. But
yeah, high five, universe. Thanks for the breakfast. For the positive karma.
Right? I dig it.
All right, y'all. Till next time. Peace.
Peace.